Hello everybody, this is Dean Robinson, SummitCityNoise.com. Now whether it's comedian Whoopi Goldberg or Senator Lindsey Graham, these American war hawks are using television announcements to encourage President Donald Trump to attack Syria. Okay? Now as usual, the justification for this attack is an alleged chemical attack on the Syrian people in the city of Douma, ordered by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. This latest charge of Syrian chemical weapons use comes after a Syrian military battle against Jaish al-Islam. Now, Jaish al-Islam is a rebel militia that has been holding Syrian citizens hostage in Douma. Syria has been in the midst of a civil war since 2011. Now, civil war means citizens fighting against citizens. Now, when people talk about Syrian President Bashar al-Assad being a barbarian, slaughtering his own people, you could say the same thing about U.S. President Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War in the United States of America. President Assad's Syrian military is fighting local and international militia groups that the United States supports as rebel freedom fighters. These rebel freedom fighters in Syria, well, the Syrian government largely considers those mugs terrorists and traitors. That's just how it goes in a civil war. So, since 2012, the United States, through the CIA and the Pentagon, has been funding, arming, and training some of these international militia groups in Syria that are considered terrorists, traitors, and criminals by the Syrian government. Now, when I talk about all this stuff, I'm not defending Assad's actions. Civil war is horrible. I wish these mugs weren't in a civil war. But if you mugs want to talk about Bashar the Barbarian, just go ahead and talk about Abraham Lincoln the Barbarian. Assad is not the only one attacking his own people. Jaish al-Islam, these militants in Syria, they are also Syrians attacking their own people, but nobody's calling them barbarians. CBS News says reports of the latest attack, which appeared to target civilians and young children, could not be independently verified. Sputnik News letting you know Iran's foreign ministry announced that reports of a gas attack in Syria were not based on facts and were an excuse by the U.S. and Western countries to take military action against Damascus, the official Iranian news agency reported. Last month, Damascus warned that several foreign experts were preparing to stage a chemical attack, which would be carried out with the help of the infamous white helmets and would be covered by the mainstream media. Zero Hedge says the Syrian state news agency, Sana, said Jaish al-Islam was making chemical attack fabrications in an exposed and failed attempt to obstruct advances by the Syrian Arab Army. Meanwhile, Reuters said it could not independently verify the reports of this chemical attack that Whoopi Goldberg says the guy in the White House needs to retaliate about. Well, Reuters said it could not independently verify the report. CBS said the same thing, even though they're saying Assad dropped chemical weapons on these people. Been doing it. So, Zero Hedge. Others did the same. Couldn't verify this stuff. The Syrian Observatory said it could not confirm whether chemical weapons had been used in the attack on Saturday. Got to go to this Reuters story that is very interesting, that really takes us back to April 2017. Reuters says a deadly sarin gas attack on another rebel-held area in April 2017 prompted President Donald Trump to order a U.S. missile strike on a Syrian airbase from which the Syrian operation is said to have been launched. U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis, speaking with reporters, said the Syrian government had repeatedly used chlorine as a weapon. He stressed the United States did not have evidence of sarin gas use. We are even more concerned about the possibility of sarin use, but I don't have the evidence, Mattis said. What I am saying is that other groups on the ground, non-government organizations, fighters on the ground, have said that sarin has been used, so we are looking for evidence. Now people, that's Jim Mattis talking with reporters about the April 2017 U.S. military attack. Well, it was in response to a sarin attack that the United States has no evidence of. But Whoopi Goldberg's not worried about that evidence. Lindsey Graham, not worried about it. John McCain, not worried about it. So when we talk about this April 2017 military strike by President Donald Trump, Got to go to Politico, April of 2017. John McCain says Syria strike is 8 years in the making. Senator John McCain championed President Donald Trump's decision to launch an attack against Syrian government forces, calling the action the beginning of continued involvement in the region. This is a beginning, and a lot of hard things have to be done, but without this airstrike, those other things couldn't have been done either, the Arizona Republican said on MSNBC's Morning Joe. After all, it's been 8 years in the making. 8 years from April 2017. Well, people, that would take you back to 2009. So let's go to a story by News Limited to address 2009. Is the fight over a gas pipeline fueling the world's bloodiest conflict? Before the Civil War, two competing pipelines put forward by Qatar and Iran aimed to transport gas to Europe through Syria. Qatar's plans were first put forward in 2009 and involved building a pipeline from the Persian Gulf via Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, and Turkey. So the Qatar pipeline, introduced in 2009, well, that's not the pipeline that Bashar al-Assad selected. He said, Qatar, thank you, but no thank you. We're going to go with Iran's natural gas pipeline in 2009. 8 years later, you got Senator John McCain very pleased about a military strike that apparently the United States had been stewing over since 2009. When you look at the United States military interest in Syria, you can go back into the 80s. You can go back to the Reagan administration. So I'm going to go to a story published in January 2017 by the Daily Mail. Secret 1983 CIA intelligence report suggested America should encourage Saddam Hussein to attack Syria to secure oil pipeline to Med and Gulf. All right? Back in the 80s, during the Reagan administration, America urged Iraqi President Saddam Hussein to attack Hafez al-Assad's Syria because of the closure of Iraq's oil pipeline, a secret 1983 intelligence report has revealed. The report, it's called Bringing Real Muscle to Bear in Syria. The report by former senior CIA official Graham Fuller said the United States should consider urging Iraq to take the war to Syria, noting that Saddam was fighting for his life in the Iran-Iraq campaign. So Iraq is already at war with Iran. That's when the CIA wants Iraq to also go to war in Syria, because Syria shut down the Iraqi oil pipeline. So back to the Daily Mail. Through the closure of the pipeline, CIA official Graham Fuller said Syria had a hammerlock on U.S. interest in both Lebanon and in the Gulf. So that's from a 1983 CIA report encouraging President Ronald Reagan to encourage Iraqi President Saddam Hussein to go to war in Syria over an oil pipeline. And so right now you have the United States involved in war in Syria, taking direct action against Syria and indirect action against Syria. Whoopi Goldberg and Meghan McCain on The View, they want the same sort of military action that Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham want. They want President Trump to attack Syria over this latest chemical weapons attack in Syria, Syrian on Syrian crime. But there's already been a missile strike against Syria. Who knows if it's in retaliation? So CBS News letting you know. April 9th, 2018, U.S. denies missile strike in Syria. Russia says Israel did it. Missiles struck an airbase in central Syria early Monday, but the Pentagon quickly denied claims from Syrian state media that the strikes were an American aggression. A war monitoring group said Iranian-backed militia members were killed in the strikes, and Russia and then Syria accused Israeli jets of firing the missiles. Syria's state-run news agency said the missile attack on the T-4 military base in Homs province had resulted in a number of casualties. The London-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said 14 people were killed, including foreign nationals, in allusion to Iranian or at least Iran-backed fighters. Russia's allegation that 2 Israeli F-15s had fired a total of 8 missiles at the T-4 base came several hours after Pentagon spokesman Christopher Sherwood said in a statement, the Department of Defense is not conducting airstrikes in Syria. War hawks are using television in the United States to encourage President Donald Trump to attack Syria, to take direct military action against a nation that has done nothing to the United States. Israel, on the other hand, those mugs have conducted some 100 military strikes within Syria over the last 5 years. Israel doing that. Israel, over the last few months, openly admitted that in 2007, 2007, well, Israel struck an alleged Syrian nuclear base. Israel has been waging war against Syria, in Syria, since 2007, all the way up until 2018, conducting some 100 strikes against Syria, in Syria, over the last 5 years. So Israel got down the way Whoopi wanted the guy in the White House to get down.